Going to our visiting counselor, Counselor Gail Bates.
Thank you, Chair Aker. I have a conflict on item DS 1804. Frank Allen requesting approval in principle for an aviation heritage museum center, as my husband's employed at the Oshawa Golf Course.
Thank you. Very good. We'll respect those as we move forward into the meeting. Now, presentations none. So, we have delegations here. Councillor Sanders, do you have a motion to hear all three delegations?
Sorry, motion to hear all three delegations, yes.
To the committee. All in favor? Carried. First of all, Larry Ladd, please come forward. Good, thank you. Thank you. Good. That's good. If it stays, that's good. Very good.
This is how you say, this is how you spell his name.
Good.
Reher.
You're good. Welcome, Mr. Ladd.
Good afternoon, Chairperson Aker, Mr. Mayor, Development Committee members, visiting council members, greetings to city staff, and everyone present for today's meeting, which is a referral from the concerning Development Services -18-51, referral from City Council, construction of a boat launch ramp at the Oshawa Harbour. That staff provide a report concerning the construction of a boat launch ramp at the Oshawa Harbour, thereby meeting the city's minimum obligations under the Harbour Settlement Agreement and providing public recreational activities for the citizens of Oshawa, and that this motion was referred to the Development Services Committee. I would like an explanation on that one. Oshawa is booming and growing. Many residents are not aware that since October of 2002, the Oshawa Federal Harbour Commission shamefully closed the Federal Marina, and nowhere within the city limits of Oshawa at present can people with recreational boats, etc., access entry or exit Lake Ontario. Numerous Oshawa Harbour and waterfront studies, proposals, meetings, trips to Ottawa, Toronto, staff time, costing hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars over the decades, have been spent and filed away at City Hall. If the dust was blown off all those studies and proposals at the waterfront, the Oshawa Harbour would also need to be dredged. What good is a boat launch ramp when the old Marina Lake entrance is not mentioned in the referral and is choked full of sand, sediment, logs, debris, flotsam, etc., and it's next to impossible to navigate through? It's a very expensive issue and must be dredged properly and environmentally disposed of. Council has cancelled the 2 marina requests for proposals, which I say was like A. There appears to be no plan B, C, or D, and we are once again starting at the beginning from reading what the local newspaper has published. This time, just for a boat launch ramp. Back in the 90s, I believe in 1996, the Crombie Waterfront Trust entered into an agreement with Oshawa to finance a public boat launch ramp was $150,000. And I believe council approved, if it approved and built the ramp, the city agreed they would match that amount of money. What is the financial status of that account? Is there enough to build a ramp? Is there sufficient funding to dredge the marina entrance? Is there another marina entrance to Lake Ontario being considered? Will a committee member answer the questions or ask staff to respond? Where and on what parcel of land will the ramp be located? What will be the ramp size? Single, double, triple? Will fishing and other recreational activities be permitted and included along both sides of the Oshawa Creek from Simcoe Street to Lake Ontario? Will benches and garbage recycling containers be installed on both sides of the Oshawa Creek? Will adequate lighting and nearby parking space for vehicle and boat trailers be available? Is there a limitation on the size or length, the height, the weight of a recreational boat, vehicle, etc., that may use the ramp? Will additional docking facilities be available so an individual, after unloading, can tie their boat up, etc., then walk back to their vehicle and drive to the parking area and walk back to where their boat is tied to? Will there be health and safety equipment available? Will there be a travel hoist available, large enough to lift heavy boats for entry and exit from the water? Will the ramp and parking be free? If not, explain. Is there a ramp opening and closing time? Will the launch area be fenced, gated, and lighted? Will there be a gas or diesel facility for refueling? Will washroom facilities be available? Where will the boat launch ramp be located? And will it be compatible with a possible future full-service marina facility? The Oshawa Yacht Club and Harbor Office building has been demolished. Have the underground sewage, holding tank, sewer drain pipes and lines, and pump, etc., also been removed? Are the marina lands and all other individual parcels of land all under the Harbour Commission / Port Authority settlement agreement obligations? Are you going to meet the agreed deadline completion dates, or will an extension time frame be needed to prevent the heavy federal penalty requirements? Is this the start of another municipal pre-election enticement? We first spoke to City Council in May of 2002 regarding a full-service marina, public boat launch ramp, including waterfront trails, with access and entry and exit to Lake Ontario. We even submitted an offer to purchase the Federal Marina property. Since then, over years, a succession of candidates, many running for mayor and council positions, have been elected. Some promised or stated in their campaign literature that they agreed with our position on a boat launch ramp and the full-service marina. We have continually been speaking at committee and council meetings on this issue. In May of this year, it'll be our 16th anniversary. And God, we're here again today. If a report card were given to our Oshawa Council on the marina and boat launch and access to Lake Ontario issue, it would be an F. Lots of talk, no action equals failure. Today, this committee will no doubt refer this issue back to staff, who later will issue a report back to the DS committee or another committee who will recommend something to council. Timing and direction of this report is critical. Will it favor the incumbents, as the timing will be critical to the October 22nd, 2018 municipal election date? Shortly before that, you'll go into a lame duck council position. Our community has been patient, and we've waited long enough. Answers to everything I have here in writing, and I have 20 copies available, are requested both verbal and in writing. We are waiting for truthful answers and committee direction today. Hopefully, no more closed sessions or staff referral delays on those waterfront issues. I've bought 2 large displays that I bartered with your Development Services Committee meeting a few years ago. They're accurate as far as the land goes and whatnot.
Larry, just at the start point, show us where, we'll call it the old boat launch is, okay?
Yes.
Oh, you're going to have to carry it, I think.
I see what you mean. Sorry, I didn't I'll be your mic stand. Thank you, sir. This is where the Oshawa Creek, right here.
Larry, we can't, okay, thank you.
This is where the Oshawa Creek enters into the marina property here.
Okay, yep.
It comes in here and it turns here. The sediment to the entrance of the marina is all in here. You can't get a boat in there. You can walk on the sand. Part of the reason for that is back in here, there's a sheet piling, and it might be more available on this particular drawing. Right in here, this creek used to go, Oshawa Creek used to go right across to Montgomery Creek, which is right here. The Harbour Commission years ago changed it here. The reason for that, flotsam, debris, logs, and whatnot caused from climate change, erosion, and ice and spring runoff used to run right through here and then come into the turning basin in the marina. They changed it here. So what it has done, there was an old boat right here along this sheet piling wall called the Harry H. It was quite a long freighter, and it basically sunk there where it was moored for years. My dad and I used to stand on it, and the water would lap over your feet, and we used to fish there. That boat literally sunk right down. The big boats and freighters that turn in here, okay, the propellers shove all that crap over to here. When you had salt, kerosene, gasoline, etc. in there, what it basically done along that sheet pile wall in here, because when water permeates coal, it creates sulfuric acid. And it has eat holes all over that sheet piling wall on that west wharf. So the convenient way for the Oshawa Harbour Commission was to keep all that crap over to that west wharf. I think if you go back a few years ago, when the 2 tanks that were on the west side of the Oshawa Creek, right close to Simcoe Street, were transported across the Oshawa Creek by a conveyor system and then trucked over to that west wharf where the commer boat normally sat. The weight of those tanks and the machinery to get those tanks over there literally sunk that ground down so bad that all that old black crap that was in there that's highly contaminated came up. They had to put tons of gravel in there to keep packing it down. That's how bad it is there. It's my opinion, and I'm not an engineer, but if all that dredgeate along that west wharf was taken out, the wharf's going to fall over. You have a piece of property there now that you'll probably get complete title to shortly. That's the part south of the Oshawa Creek. Now, had the Harbour Commission probably and rightfully got that boat out of there, you would not have a dredgeate problem that exists there today. So I would say to you that if you're going to Ottawa to ask for grants or money, you point out that boat. It was called the Harry H. That might give you some wiggle room to get money from them. So that's one problem. The other problem is when the big boats get in there and turn, they keep pushing more over. If you're a cottage owner and you have a boat slip, you drive your boat in. The propeller shoots it behind. If you turn your boat around in that boat slip, start it up and put it in reverse, it'll push everything up so the front of your boat is clear. Boaters do that all the time at their cottages. We did it down the lake when I was down there from the early 80s until the marina closed in 2002. So that's one part that might be helpful to you. The other part is where you're going to put your boat launch ramp. My God, you've got studies in here. As I said, if the dust was blowing off, you'd have to dredge the harbor to get that dust out. You've got them for years. Your staff has had them for years. We've contributed to your stuff to help you. I'm not going to sit here and tell you where you should put a boat launch ramp, because you always seem to want to hire a consultant and pay them to do it. We've offered to do it for you, but I'm not doing it now. I'm kind of burned up that you had a closed meeting on your waterfront. I wasn't here for the council meeting last Tuesday. Thankfully, I read it in the newspaper. I think you people on council should have mandated a boat launch ramp. I'm not here asking for a full-service marina. Right? I would love to see one, but I'm also retired and born, raised, married, and schooled in this city, and probably going to die in it. I'm 75 years young, and I never thought since 2002 when we started this that we wouldn't have something down there. And that's why I say, and I look you in the eye, I think you've failed. You failed this community on that. And that's the way I feel. Are we willing to help you? Sure, we'll give you a little advice. Have you ever come to us and said, sit down with us? Only once. And that's when my lawyer, Mark Matson from Lake Ontario Waterkeeper, came here and sat down with your legal people and said, hey, this is what you better know and you better understand. We took your former mayor, Gray, to meet David Miller, the mayor of Toronto at the time, because they had a problem, and they still have in Toronto, with their port authority. It was the best 2-hour meeting Mayor Gray ever had with the mayor of Toronto. That helped us here. You know, you people can talk to other people in mayors, and I'm sure you do, and you can get advice on to handle and deal with port authorities. Because what you've got down there now, when we sit down and have a little drink, we talk about North Korea and South Korea. Well, that's what you've got down there. They're going to tell you in your land use agreements, which I've read right through 15 times, you know, they're going to tell you they're supposed to cooperate with you and you're supposed to cooperate with them. Well, let me tell you, if you read the latest e-newsletter from the Oshawa Chamber of Commerce, you've got Gary Velcor in there, right, with another article. Oshawa Port Authority is the heading. And what's he doing? He's slamming the city. Slamming the city, saying you're not managers. You're not running it right. And look what the legacy that gentleman has left down there. You don't know if there's going to be a port there, neither do we, because of the financial jeopardy they're in. So I say to you, you know, I'm not coming here. I know the finances of this city. You've got the money for a boat launch ramp. At council, you could have mandated it. You could have saved people a lot of damn problems coming here like me and yapping. You could have done it. Instead, it's the same old deal. You're going to refer it back to staff. Staff's going to play along with it. You're incumbents. You know, politicians have a way of bringing things forward in the timing so it looks good for you. And I have no doubt that some of these reports is going to start coming out this summer before you go into a lame duck position to make you look good. Well, start making us look good in the community. That's what I say to you. If there's anything else you want to know about a boat launch ramp, ask your staff to sit down with us. But I'll tell you, I'm not going to spend hours with you and have you put it on the shelf like all the other ones over the years. Since the early 60s, your shelves have been full of them. I'm tired of it. I'm 75 years young this year. I've got better things to do than be coming here bothering you or getting myself upset. Thank you.
My new name is Mike.
Thank you. Now, Mr. Ladd has left us. Just to the Commissioner, there was an indication in the presentation that we had a requirement of the federal government to put a boat launch to complete our agreement with them.
Through you, Chair Aker, I believe the requirement under the federal settlement agreement was a marina, a boat launch, or another municipal public purpose, and the municipal public purpose was effectively parkland, which is what the council chose to do as an interim solution. So, but that'll all be addressed in their staff report, what our obligations were under the federal agreement, and a number of the issues that Mr. Ladd raised as well would be addressed in that report.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Committee, questions to the delegation? Councillor Carter.
First of all, good afternoon, Mr. Chair, and good afternoon, Mr. Ladd. You made reference to this Harry H. boat. When did it sink?
I would say that I was 9 or 10 years old.
Can you use your mic, please, sir? Thank you very much, Mr. Ladd.
Thank you for the question, Councillor Carter. I believe I was 9 or 10 years old, and I'll be 75 in May.
So it's been there for about 65 years?
It's been there for years and years and years.
Okay. I do 52. And just out of curiosity, when I'm, and I don't know, and that's the reason why I'm asking, when a boat like that sinks, is there not an obligation by the operator to remove that boat? Is it not part of a mandate? You know, we have the air traffic control people, and we have Aviation Canada or whatever, but is there not an obligation when a hazard like that sinks in an active marina area that boat would have been removed, or no?
I wish I could answer you.
Okay.
All I can tell you that when the manager and one of the workers of the marina had a boat there called the MV Reher.
Okay.
It sunk, and it was at the very south end of the West Wharf.
Okay.
It sunk, and they basically had broken half the keel when it went down, and they had to crane it out and put it there.
Okay.
I assume somehow there had to be a regulation then to bring that one out, but I can't go back to the Area H one. I'm sorry.
Okay. When I look at that map, and it's a long stretch, then it has almost a bay to it, and then it comes back out again. That's the main entrance where the ships come in. Is that correct? The long area?
That's correct.
And Mr. Ladd, and I've driven a boat, but not a big boat. But my instinct would go to the right, and then veer to the left to come back out straight. But I get a feeling that what you were saying is they're going down, they're going to the left, they're doing their turn there and pushing all that soot and everything else up where the creek is. Is that correct, or am I misunderstanding that?
No, I think you're partially correct. This is an easier one for me to now, bear in mind, this is Montgomery Creek.
Yep.
This is the Oshawa Creek here.
Yep.
Okay, where the Area H sunk is here. Comra had their boat in here, and there's a little bit of a sailing school in there with little wee small Sea Stark snail boats.
Okay.
And they bus people down there for a cost, and the Harbour Commission kicked us out, allowed that to continue.
Okay.
Then the Comra boat was in here.
Right.
So the sand and silt came down from the creek and also came in from here over to this West Wharf.
Okay.
Okay?
So, Mr. Ladd, so do the ships come down and veer to the left instead of the right? Is that your understanding?
Sometimes they come down and they turn in the basin here.
Yes.
There's also been damage to the corner of the dock here because they hit too close.
Okay.
Now a lot of them come in and they tug them in. Okay, the McCashfelt boat that brings barge in every 3 or 4 weeks when it's navigable down there, it comes in and it goes over in here.
Right.
Okay. So you have a lot of boat traffic. I seen this summer for the first time 3 freighters tied up. 2 along here,
Yes.
1 over here.
Yes.
You know, so you have a lot of traffic. With
Okay.
that, you have wave action.
Right.
Now, if you're looking for a boat launch ramp, okay, then you go over here. This is the marina.
Yes.
Okay, all in here. You don't have a yacht club now. Years ago, when I was part of the harbor negotiating team, the city was interested in putting a boat launch ramp right here. This here, if you look at the winds that come in, would be a dangerous place. This harbor here, for the boat, where the boats are, was considered the safest harbor on the north shore of Lake Ontario because it's sheltered. I go down there almost every day for a walk, sit in the car and shoot the breeze with the fishermen and the other people that are down there. The yacht club is now gone. So if you wanted to hit deep water here, you'd have it here. Where before you had to come in here and make the turn to get in, right in through here.
So
I would not recommend that spot there, even though it might save you hundreds of thousands of dollars from dredging, unless you've done something to sort of protect something off here.
So, Mr. Ladd, can you, you were saying that McAsphalt comes into the bay there.
Yep.
Do they do dredging in that area to make sure that their ships are able to get in there?
The Harbour Commission does all the dredging.
The Harbour Commission does all the
Or
dredging?
the Port Authority now.
The Port Authority does all the dredging. And to your knowledge, the only dredging that goes on is to the right of the, on the bay where McAsphalt would be, but not to the left.
I haven't seen dredging in here for a number of years. Along here every 2 or 3 years, and over in here where they come in. They come in on an angle here.
Okay. Mr. Ladd, with your knowledge of this particular area, when you dredge, does the soot that comes up, is it just put into almost a cargo bay and then dumped? Is it removed? Is it tested?
Oh boy, you've sure got me going now. When Jerry Ouellette was the Conservative Minister of Natural Resources in Queen's Park, Mayor Diamond was the mayor. They were dredging all in here.
Right.
I took my boat with 2 coolers full of dry ice, the proper bags. They said this stuff was okay to go out in the lake, out in here, and be dumped on a barge. We went right up to the barge. The stuff that the government approved through Ouellette's office, they said it was okay to put it out in the lake. I took it, okay, with witnesses, the proper Ziploc bags, the dry ice, and the coolers, right to Toronto. Lake Ontario waterkeeper, and this came right off the barge as they dug it up. They didn't even have to do a full test on it. On the phosphorus count alone, it should never went out into the lake. When the Oshawa Harbour Commission basically did dredging, years and years ago, they had great big pipes that they piped it out in the lake and dropped it because there was very lax environmental regulations. When Donna Taylor was, and still there, the head of the Harbour Commission, they trucked it up to your nice parking lot on the north side of Oshawa Creek, right up towards Harbour Road. They said it was clean. When we went to Toronto, and I'll never forget this, we went up on the train. Mayor Diamond and Nestor arranged it. We went up there because of the snow and the bad weather. Okay, the tests were all done. Diamond got delayed because of the snow and the train, the switching. She couldn't get by at the train stop. But we were there, Lake Ontario waterkeeper, Mark Matson, Kristen Tully, myself, you name it. And we raised that. Why did you give them permission to go out in that lake and dump that? Okay? And why did you give them permission to put it on the land on that West Wharf? I'm going to tell you, I look you in the eye, and Jerry Ouellette got up and run right out of that meeting room. That's how bad it was. He got up and run. We never could get an answer from him. And that's why I worked against him. We couldn't get an answer from him. And you can go back to the record on that with Mark Matson. You can get Dave Potts to check it. And that's a fact. So if you got dredgings and you want to get rid of them, the favorite thing of the Oshawa Harbour Commission of the day was to make sure the sampling was done in the right area. Well, we took it right as it came out of the lake. The other part that was down there, when all those dredgings from years previous were dredged out, they were put there where the domes are. Okay? The Harbour Commission had to get a special federal environment permit to leave them there and store them there, and they leached right back into the water. So when we said those samples, something is wrong with them, that's when we went and did on-site testing.
Okay.
So that's going to happen again.
Okay. Now, just out of curiosity, you were associated with the marina when it was operating. Is that correct?
I put a boat in there in the early 80s, and it was there continually until 2002 when we were evicted.
Now, were you part of the I guess the executive at the marina?
No, I was just an ordinary.
Yacht club. I'm sorry.
No, I was an ordinary fisherman.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
So the only reason why I ask that is I'm wondering, and I don't know again because I don't know waterways and that. Is I'm wondering if there was testing that had to be done when the marina was up and operating. To your knowledge, would there have been testing done? I mean, that would have been an active area with a lot of activity in that area. So
I can't answer that, but I can tell you this. When myself and 3 other people wanted to buy that property, we tested the water, we tested the sediment and everything in that marina.
And?
Because we were concerned about the old dump that used to be at the north end.
And what did you find?
We found nothing wrong with the sediment or the water.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ladd. I greatly appreciate it.
Councillor Chapman.
It just, you're talking about where the creek used to come across the Oshawa Creek there. When did the marina, when was it built, do you know? Like, when did it become the basin for the boats there? And I guess they changed, about the same time, they must have changed the direction of the creek. Instead of going straight across, they put the curve in, right?
What basically happened, to my knowledge, okay, is there was, in Oshawa, you had the people that had, they were very well-to-do. They kept their big yachts down there, okay? And basically what happened is the city, okay, the city back, and I think it was 1969, when the deal from the city, they gave all that land to the Harbour Commission and or the federal government. That included the second marsh, the whole thing. I recall Bennett Marine. I recall Pine Ridge in there. I recall after that the Harbour Commission. Around 1969, when the city deeded that land to the, I'll say the federal government or the Harbour Commission, because they were arm's length. I believe it started in the early 60s, but the deed was finally signed, I think, in 1969. There was a caveat put on that deed, that if that marina was not used for marine and harbor purposes, sort of get it back. I believe the natives had first right to it. After that, it sort of went open, but it was sort of understood that the city could get back that land. Now, prior to that, my good friend Jim Richards, who worked for GM, he developed McLaughlin Bay for General Motors. They did a wonderful job down there. Well, was also the chief guy down there who took the federal government to court to get that land back. They beat him, they assaulted him. You couldn't believe what they'd done to that man, but he persisted. There was court cases, there was arguments, there was back to Ottawa, back to Toronto. Finally, it was called the Second Marsh Defense Association, and he ran it for years, did a wonderful job. Lives out in Orno, retired now, and whatnot. But there's been several people over the years that have advocated down there for the waterfront. And God, he was a great guy. You got your second marsh back because of him and a friend of mine called Dave Smith. Dave then was a manager for the Provincial Environment Ministry. And boy, he had a lot to do with it. And he's been a great mentor of mine as well.
So just one other question. You talked about that boat that sank. Was that before, was that before the direction of the creek changed? You know, because you said the Oshawa Creek came across and hooked right up to Montgomery there. Montgomery, is that what it is?
Definite, but I believe so.
Pardon me?
I can't give you a definite, but
Okay.
I believe the creek was going across there when that boat finally did sink.
Okay, so then they put the little
The little hook.
there. The boat was already dead in the water type
Yep.
thing. Okay. Okay, great. Thanks.
Mayor Henry.
Thank you, Chair, and Larry, thank you for being here. You know, Google's a great thing. Did you know what the original name of the area H was? Are you ready? It was
I probably knew it, but
It was SC-238. It was built as a subchaser. It was owned by the Canadian.
my dad called it a rum runner. That's what he called it.
But it was surprising. But it was sold for civilian use instead of repurposing in World War II. I don't know how it ended up here because Google. I'm sure if I Googled it a couple times, I might find more of the details. But it's surprising to find out that it was originally owned by the Canadian government.
Isn't that something? They've been known to have a few drinks now and then, make bad decisions.
Any questions from visiting councilors? Okay.
I've got a picture that I'd like you to see. When the Harbour Commission, when the Harbour Commission, way back in the 60s, obtained the second marsh, this here is your existing marina. Okay? That's an actual picture of the second marsh where they wanted to put their second port. There was models of that done, and I believe they're residing in one of the, maybe the Marine Museum in Ottawa. The fellow that I dealt with on the port, on the Harbour Commission, took a bunch of pictures of them, and I blew that one up. I have the original. And I don't know if my good friend from the newspaper has that picture or not.
What's that?
From what the Port Authority or the Harbour Commission wanted to do with the second marsh.
I believe I have a copy somewhere, yeah.
Yeah. Believe me, I have documents from 1960 to 1990, yearbooks, newspaper articles, and that's why I say to you, if you went back in your archives here, if they were available, the dust that come from that stuff you got on that waterfront, you need to dredge the harbor to get rid of the dust. That's how many there were. Thank you.
Thank you. We have the second delegation is Frank Reher. Do I pronounce it right?
Well, thanks for letting me speak. I don't have as much to say as Larry because I'm going to just wing it a bit. But with the boat launch, when you, if you build one, and if you build it where we think it should be built, and you have to dredge like we think you have to do, well, guess what's going to happen there? Big boats will be able to come into the basin. I once said to staff that we would like to, knowing that the city had no money, do a mom-and-pop marina, just like basically the Civic Auditorium was built by the people. And I says, well, why can't we do the same thing with the marina, knowing that the city has no money? You know what I was told? That's not what we want. We want to build the Taj Mahal. Well, to build the Taj Mahal, as I said to many councillors, and that's why you denied the request from those two different companies, you're going to have to give up something, and you're going to have to give up land. Me and Larry knew, and we knew that, you know, it wasn't going to work, because you have to give up something, which, you know, has a value. And so, in our opinion, and we know this marina lands probably better than all of you, what the best solution is. Unfortunately, no one wants to listen. We're not here to give you, you know, blast you. We're here to work with for the best of the people of Oshawa. This is my community, and we want what's best for us. And it's about time we start working as a team. You know, there's individuals who are in the military. When you're in the military, you work as a team to get things accomplished. And if you don't work as a team, you don't get things accomplished. And it's about time we, the city, and we all start working as a team to get things accomplished. The boat launch, that's going to be a start. Like I say, if you use the existing boat launch that was there, which would have to be made bigger, you're going to have to do major dredging. As Larry pointed out, it's silted in because of what was done in the past. That needs to be rectified. So we're going to have to go to the federal government, see if you can get some money, and you have to do it right. There's plans, that the city has on, what we recommended is, back in the day. And the easiest way to always dredge is from land. And as long as you can dredge from land, you can do things a lot simpler and cost efficient than from a barge. So, I know the city has some money. We don't know how much money, but, baby steps, and we need to get things accomplished. We go way back when the Harbour Commission wanted to give the lands back to the city and what they wanted to do, which was fill in all the basins. They were going to build a boat launch ramp and give it back to you like that. So, as I said to someone else, hey, if you don't want to have a marina, then why is the creek doing what it's doing right now? You might as well put it back the way it was. Where did Oshawa's name come from? Two creeks that meet, Oshawa Creek, Montgomery Creek. If you don't want to have a marina and you want to have green space, then put the creek back the way it was. Guess what? If you did that, boy, oh boy, those feds, there would be some big major controversy going on with that one and stuff, because, when you do that, they're going to have to majorly dredge. It's not a deep water port by itself. They have to spend money to keep it deep. So we're here to work with you. If you want us to work with you, like Larry said, but we're getting tired. This has gone on way too long. Thank you.
Questions from the committee? Questions from visiting? Just one question, Frank. With your knowledge, we've all been down there. Is the previous boat launch, because I can't call it an existing, is the previous boat launch in the right place for the future?
Well, let's just say it's your best option, because, there is other studies that they've done, and you can't put it on where the wave actions are coming in from the lake. You just physically, you put a boat in the water, and when you put it to the stern, it's going to sink.
That's what we want to know. We've all been down there. It looks like a reasonable point. It's sheltered.
Yeah.
And it's...
Like I say, once you do that, and you dredge it, then you'll be able... I would be able to bring my boat right into the basin then.
Okay. Thank you. We appreciate that. Thank you very much. We have one more delegation. Adam White. Adam, are you coming today? Adam? Ask him to speak. No. Okay, that's fine. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Henry. Thank you, Adam. That's very good. Okay.
I'll move a motion that we refer to staff for report, but I think also that Larry and Frank may want to be included in some of those discussions. I think it makes sense. They've been lodging more than 16 years working on this project, and I think they have a valuable knowledge that may be beneficial to staff. If we're looking at a location of a boat launch, because it may change where we decide to put a boat launch or whether we need potential for dredging further up the creek.
You were very good. Just my error. Could you just move that that the correspondence from Larry Ladd be received?
I thought I moved that already at the start.
Well, he
Okay,
said
I'll
it's
remove.
not, so
Move it again.
I'll
Move it
move that correspondence from Larry Ladd, DS 1849, be added to the agenda.
be received for
Be
information.
received for information then.
All in favor? Carried. Now we'll go to the motion. Now we'll go to the motion of Councillor Sanders.
Not yet.
Yeah, before the motion comes, sorry. Before the motion comes forward, I had known about that ship being there, but I didn't know that it was once owned by the federal government. The question I'm going to pose is, did staff know that it was a converted subchaser?
Through you, Mayor, to you, Mayor Henry, no, I wasn't aware, but
So, and I know this is going back a long time, but if somebody owns and it was sold to a private whoever, and it sank, there should have been some liability about removing it at the time. It doesn't change the fact that still, once upon a time, it was owned by the federal government. I'm wondering if a letter written to the Federal Ministry of the Environment talking about a former piece of surplus equipment from our Navy that's in the bottom of our harbor should not be addressed. I'm wondering if you could comment on that.
through you, Mayor Henry, that through you, Chair Aker, to Mayor Henry, that's something that we'll look at with Commissioner Diskey as well, and if it's something, then we'll address it in the staff report.
So, Chair,
It's coming back.
will you accept that as direction?
Yes.
Okay. And in the meantime, if we could, I know that the information that I found and the picture that I found when I Googled the heritage came out of Oshawa Museum's archives. I couldn't find any other information other than the ship's registry number. But would it be possible that you contact our museum folks to find out who the owner of that ship was?
Through you, Chair Aker, yes, we will. In fact, we have a meeting with the museum on another matter tomorrow, so we can raise it then.
Okay, as direction, Chair?
Yes.
Okay. And then, okay, and thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Henry. Back to Councillor Sanders, your motion.
Sorry, my motion is to refer to staff for report, but also to include Larry and Frank, because we've got to look at the best options that may be available for where the boat launch should be located, whether it's on the west side, the east side, the center, the old yacht club. We have no idea, but they seem to have a lot of knowledge of the area down there, and I think we need to have a discussion and not, the 16 years that's passed since they started this process.
To the committee. On the Commissioner, none? Nothing? To the committee. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Now, we know we're going to go to reports, I believe. Yeah. Yeah. So, and we know DS 1845 is pulled. Does anybody have any? Is anybody pulling? There's only one other report. I'm assuming no one's pulling DS 1829. So I'll ask for Councillor Sanders to give us the consent agenda.
That all items listed under the consent agenda for what's February 26, 2018 development services be approved as recommended.
All in favor? Carried.